Welcome to the Bhangra podcast. This is your host, Howie Magaro. I have on the line the winner of Bhangra Blowout 2018 with no competition in the past, Jaskirat Vig.
Except Spartan.
I have Jesse Mangat.
Spartan stuff.
Jesse Mangat, Alcoholics Anonymous, and all he does is laugh. I can't even understand what the fuck's coming out of his mouth half the time. I have Sahil Dadoo, #1 crying guy on BTF.
Let's get back to it.
And Sahab Grover, who walks the whole set as our host.
Okay. Bring it back. Let's bring it back. Yeah, bring it back. Bring it back. Okay, guys.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Bhangra podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Bhangra and the Burgh and Boston Bhangra. I'm your host, Sahab Grover, and today with me I have Howie Magaro, otherwise known as Howie Magaro, HSA Props, Jazz Vig, Jaskirat Vig from Illini Bhangra, Jesse Mangat from MBT Bhangra, and Sahil Dadoo of UNC fame. So, Jesse, Jaskirat, Sahil, it's your first time on the Bhangra podcast. You guys give yourself a little bit of an introduction. Jaskirat, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Jaskirat, currently captain of Illini Bhangra, and I've danced for Fertile and First Class.
Oh, cool guy. Fertile and First Class. Jesse, can you give yourself a little bit of an introduction?
It's my 4th year, and last year on MBT, 2nd year captain, and I danced with Fertile at Buckeye last year.
Oh, wow, another Fertile guy out here. Okay, Sahil, give yourself a little bit of introduction.
I'm Sahil. Currently dance for UNC, and I've danced for First Class and KPGD in the past.
Yeah, Sahil's been dancing for about, 20 years now? Ever since you were born?
Almost, yeah.
Almost since you're born. Okay, so we're going to get into this Boston Bhangra prediction. So our lineup for this year was quite a doozy. It's 12 teams. ABC Bhangra, AEG, Nutsi Giovanni Folk Lovers, Rangile Jawan, Bhangra Theory, Virginia School of Bhangra Wars, North England Bhangra Club, NEBC, DC MPAA, DC Metro Punjabi Arts Academy, BU Bhangra, Boston University Bhangra, Spartan Bhangra, Ministry of Bhangra from Chicago, and Texas Bhangra. 12 teams. That's going to be quite a show. So we're going to start off with a little bit of some predictions. So Jaskirat, I want to hear your placings. Who do you think is going to take home first, second, and third?
All right, so in my opinion, I think it'll be NJ first, clear win. At second, I have Spartan. Third, I have DCMPA, and then my dark horse is VSB.
Okay, I got some questions for you here. So you had third place. Who'd you have?
I had DCMPA.
DCMPA.
Yeah.
So we'll get back to your placings. You had
Okay.
DCMPA, you had Spartan, and you had who was first again?
No, she's
NJ Giovanni. So Jesse, I want to get into your placing. Jesse, who do you think is going to do first, second, and third at this competition? And also give your dark horse too.
First place, I have to agree. NJ Folk Lovers coming off MCB performance, they did really well. I think they're definitely gonna want to finally bring out a first place. Second place, I'd say VSB Warris. Third place, AG, and then dark horse, ABC.
Okay, so for my predictions, I have Nutsi Giovanni Folk Lovers at first place, clear. Second place, I have AEG Bhangra. And third place, I have Virginia School of Bhangra, and I have 2 dark horses, actually, because we have a 12-man lineup. Dark horses are Rangile Jawan and DCMPAA. So, Jaskirat, you had completely different placings from me and Jesse, other than Nutsi Giovanni. We all think Nutsi Giovanni is going to win it first. But my question is Spartan Bhangra. They're a relatively unknown team. So why do you think they're going to take second place?
So after watching their blowout video, I thought their dancing for the most part was like pretty good actually. I would say their dancing is definitely better than AEG. But in terms of VSB, like I'm not really sure what they're gonna bring. I know that Juggy is a very, very good dancer. I'm not really sure about how the rest of the dancers are gonna be. So if the rest of the dancers are as good as Juggy, or like close to him, then maybe like they could end up placing. But at this point, I definitely feel that Spartan could definitely take second. The biggest thing for them is turnover. I'm not really sure like how that's going for them. And they are a collegiate team, and they definitely have a very collegiate set, at least at blowout. So those are also like variables. But other than that,
Did Spartan give you guys a good run for your money at blowout last year?
at that point in time, not exactly. But at the same time, after watching their blowout performance, I definitely would say that they had good dancers on stage, which is why I think they can definitely end up placing if they really pushed.
Spartan did something good. I think they changed the Vardiya. I always told them that those Vardiya just were not vibing. There were too many colors, too much going on. But I watched their blowout performance last year, and I think they went 16.
Yeah.
They went 16, right? Cut that down to 12. Depends on how much turnover they have. It's a collegiate team. I don't see them placing at this comp just because of how stacked of a lineup it is with AEG and other teams, like even teams like ABC that we haven't even mentioned. These teams are very, I mean, I honestly think they're straight up, they can be monsters on stage. ABC, my biggest problem with them was, and I watched, this is what was from back in, they competed in 2017 at Reign of Bhangra. Think about this. So Boston you have a 7-minute cap on that stage, right? You have to maximize and utilize that time to your max. We already know NJ is going to utilize those 7 minutes because they're going to be going buck. I think that teams like AEG, they know their shit when it comes to maximizing their time on stage. I mean, they danced at like 5.5 minutes at Burgh, 2016, and got first place. And that's because they can maximize their amount of time on stage. Yeah, it's also good on your stamina, on your legs. You don't have to really like go hard for the whole time. You're not going hard for like 7 minutes straight or 7.5 minutes straight. And then you got another team like VSB. They're gonna hit those moments. I don't see a team like Spartan Bhangra hitting moments harder than AEG or VSB. That's the thing. It's about hitting your moments at Boston. If you look at all the past placings, go back to 2013 up until now, the teams that actually have had just straight up the best moments and utilizing their time the best to place, what is NJ? Then 2014 was NSG. Okay, so if you look at teams all the way going back to 2013, every single one of those teams hit their moments within that time. And that's why Folk Lovers is easy first place. And then that's why I don't think Spartan's going to make that cut in the top 3.
Okay, so my response to that is that in terms of ABC, I'm personally not really a fan of their set design. I think they have a lot of breaks throughout their set. They're very, very gimmicky, but I think they use gimmicks as like a break, and it doesn't really add a whole lot to their set. I never like really see them like just dancing and just like killing a move. And their energy, I wouldn't say is like optimal. Like they don't really like lift their legs that high. So like all that stuff into consideration, like I personally don't really see them placing at Boston.
Bro, dude, energy wise, okay, I give it to you. I think if ABC cuts out all their like breaks and stuff like that, especially they're not gonna have time to do that shit on stage. If 2 minutes of your 7-minute set are you standing around, you're not gonna place. But energy wise, ABC, dude, they get their legs up. They're high energy. They're a high energy team. That's their style. They're actually not about doing complicated choreo. They're not about doing crazy like variations, other than like shaking their hips here or there, which I'm not a big fan of either. Most people aren't. But they're high energy. That shit is impactful.
I think ABC also has a lot of flashy moments on stage, which I think Boston really rewards, and they have in the past. For example, MIT beat Fritile 2 years ago. What's your thoughts on that, Sahab, when they did the little spin on the South Indian segment? Jubini, do you remember that?
Hey, placings are placings, that was a little bit different. We didn't really think that was Bhangra at that time. We thought it was Boston Bhangra. But I know that the team over in Boston is working very hard to change their image of what their competition is, change their judging. They're putting a lot of focus into that. So let's get back to talking about the teams. I think there was 3 teams, AEG, VSB, and DCMPA. We all touched upon. I think with AEG, really, it's going to come down to, can they pick their energy up from Burgh last year? I know it's the Jadre. The Jadre are like too heavy, yada, yada, yada. And I think it's also, I really don't think they should go 16. I think 16 is going to hurt them quite a bit if they do go again with Boston. You don't really need 16 anymore in today's circuit. But Jaskirat, you didn't even have AEG as a dark horse. Why was that?
I personally am not really a fan of not picking up your legs. I think that is a huge thing that like every Bhangra dancer should definitely do, because or else it just doesn't look like you have that stage presence. You don't have that energy, I personally think it's a very, very big deal. And like if Spartan picks up their legs, they can definitely like beat AEG.
Yeah, let's talk about VSB. Yo, so straight up VSB, hands down for me, and I'm just gonna say it straight up, VSB style is like, and their sets and everything about them and what they do, I'm like a big fan of VSB, huge fan. Their mix, I think their Boston mix from last year is one of my favorite mixes. I mean, it's G Sing, you can't go wrong with G Sing, and the way that like the stage presence they bring and the energy that they bring to stage, I don't see that with a lot of teams. And it's that pure Josh and Nakra, like that you can just like go fucking ham on a move. and rip that move to shreds. And I think whoever was talking about it, saying that those dancers don't go up to Harry's potential. I think Harry's Jordy is almost as good as Harry himself. Like Harry's Jordy has sick energies. I think he's a young kid, 17, 18-year-old kid. Like he is sick. He has so much energy bringing it on stage. That's why VSB they make their impact with all that energy. I mean, the choreo is not that complicated. Formations aren't the most complicated thing either, but they make their impact with that. And Jesse, I want your thoughts on VSB. You competed against them last year.
Yeah. So last year we were able to edge them out at Boston, but I think a huge part was I think they definitely had better dancing than us, had better energy and stage presence. That's hard to beat. But I think a big thing they lacked was the cleanliness. And let me tell you, when they called VSB third, this was VSB coming off of 6. They didn't place at 6. They came in BBC, got third. Harry was pissed. He was not happy with that. He called out BDS hard in their intro video. If you guys saw their call out video for Boston, I think they're really hungry to come back, and I think they're going to try to beat NJ. Honestly, I think they have the dancing ability to beat NJ.
Actually heard. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I actually heard that at Bhangra Fever this year, they were pretty close to beating Warris.
Yeah,
I think they've left. They haven't released that Fever video, but they were pretty close to beating Warris, from what I heard.
I think they have a very similar style of folk lovers, I think. So I think they will be definitely those two taking the show.
Yeah, I think it's they gotta up those back end, the back end of their dancers a little bit. Their top 3 Geordies good. It's those back 3 Geordies, if they kick it up a notch, even it out, they could really make a big dent to these other teams. But yeah, just curious. I mean, I haven't heard your thoughts on VSB. You didn't have him anywhere again. I think you had him as dark horse, if I'm correct. You had him as dark horse.
Yeah.
But why you actually edged out, I guess, VSB's rival, because they're both from the same city, DCMPAA. You had them above VSB.
So I feel that they have like pretty consistent energy, and across the board, I thought that they have like pretty good dancers. Like they're more even than I would say VSB. I think VSB has like very, very strong dancers, but they also have like weaker dancers as well. So my main thing with them is that they can definitely pull out second, third placing, but it's just about those like bottom dancers. Like how much are those guys going to stick out? If they end up sticking out a lot, then obviously like it's not going to work out for them. But yeah, it's all up to those bottom dancers.
I could see DCMPA being clean and synchronized, sure. But do you think they have like the all-star or monster dancers like VSB or NJ Folk Lovers, or do you think they have any all-star talent like that on the team?
I think Orange Girl for sure. I think as a team, they definitely get very low for Jal, but Orange Girl definitely has a lot of energy that she, presence and energy that she brings to the stage. So I definitely feel that they do have those like all-star dancers. They might not be as good as like Juggy and like Red and Blue from Folk Lovers, but they still have that presence.
Yeah, I mean DCMPA, right? East Coast Showdown, when they went co-ed, they were real good. They brought a lot of energy. They were clean, relatively clean. They're coming back. They're making a strong comeback.
They're also a very young team, right?
Yeah, I don't know if DCMPA is going co-ed or all guys or all girls. Because typically, like traditionally to Boston, DCMPA goes all girls. And they had a sick, I remember 2013, this performance gets shadowed because of NJ.
They came last year, actually. They were co-ed.
They were co-ed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember I watched
really young kids, though.
Yeah, I remember they watched the Boston co-ed to ECS, and it was a completely different team.
Yeah, it was.
They
had the two goalies there, too. It was pretty sick.
Oh, yeah, that was dirty. I mean, they're pretty sick. I mean, they're some of the best goalies in the circuit.
Okay, so we're going to start talking about Bhangra and the Burgh here. So first, we're going to go over lineup. Bhangra and the Burgh 12. The teams that are competing this year, we have Fertila Shokin, First Class Bhangra, Toronto All-Star Girls, Cornell, MBT, Illini Bhangra, Capital Bhangra, and the Rio Punjabis, all the way from the great state of California. So we got some all-guys teams, collegiate teams here, and even a team from Toronto, and even a collab team, which is interesting for Burgh. Howie, I want to hear what are your placings for this competition? For me personally, I have Fertila Shokina First Class Bhangra second, because they always get second at Burgh, and I have no idea what to do at this point. And honestly, this year, like I'm an MBT alum and everything else, right? But I judged Illini a bunch of times last year, and in my personal opinion, in comparison to the two teams from last year, I would definitely put Illini on top as number 3.
Sal, who do you got for these placings?
So I actually swapping first and second based on Howie's. I got First Class at first. This is their year. For Thiele at second, and then I got MBT clear over Illini for third.
Clear third.
Clear.
Like Jesse likes that clear third place. I like that. No discrepancies. I like it.
Yeah.
So Howie,
Fertile over FCB. Sal's got first class over Fertile. So can you explain some of your placings?
For first, why I picked Fertile, being a Fertile alumni myself, right, in the past, I really seen like the dynamic of the team, how they work and everything, and they really strive for teaching like individual nakra. And like overall, I think the top dancers on Fertile outrank the top dancers on FCB by a good margin because of the sole fact that they have a more natural, better nakra where it doesn't look as forced, and also overall the set design comes from a bit of a folker perspective per se. It's not as modern in comparison to FCB's sets, and I think traditionally at Burgh we've always had this argument because in the past we've always viewed Burgh as this folk kind of comp, right? And I think this year, from what I heard with the rubric, it's a little bit more balanced, and I think this is Fertila's year, especially coming off strong off the MCB performance, right? And I really think that they're going to take it all, right? And they have probably some of the best dancers I've seen in the circuit overall.
What you were kind of saying about Burgh, I don't know if it's traditionally a folk competition, but if you look at like the past 4 or 5 whatever winners, like NSG, AEG, NJ, SMD, FCB, like those I think are the past 5 winners. Like the one thing that's an actual like commonality between all of them is that they dance like as a team. Like whether it's like extremely energetic or whether it's like brought down like kind of how AEG did it 2016. No offense. The way the winning team every single year danced as a unit, and that's kind of why I'm putting first class over Fertile. Like, I mean Fertile, like they dance very well. I'm not going to deny that, but they've struggled to even get 12 dancers in town for every single one of their comps. Like,
but I mean FCB also borrows dancers from like
I'll give you that.
California.
But
I mean, I would say Fertile and FCB borrow dancers from each other a little bit.
Yeah.
that happens a little bit here and there.
FC, if you're looking at the way a team dances as a unit, I think FCB, like, I don't even think it's a question in terms of like that aspect. And I think that aspect is like the single most important thing at Burgh. Like the set and all is secondary to this, that one aspect of dancing as a unit, dancing like with Nukta. And I get like some Fertile dancers are better than first class, but I think first class is also very strong in that aspect. And I think they're much better than Fertile when it comes to dancing, as a group of 12/16. I think first class has kind of shot themselves in the foot the past couple of years going 16. So I hope they go 12 this year. And if they do, which I'm hoping they do, like to me, they will be clean.
So I mean,
there's
okay. So we got like Fertile FCB. That's one, all guys team kind of rivalry. We got Illini and MBT. Both you guys disagreed on those ones. Illini last year was the clear cut collegiate champ. Okay, they won blowout. They pretty much, I think, won first.
All right. DRP and MBT were not at blowout. Just putting that out there, but all right.
Okay. Jesse says DRP and MBT were in blowout. So Jesse, is MBT gonna go to blowout this year?
If we get in, we'll probably be there.
So, well, you have two collegiate rivals, MBT and Illini, and we didn't get to see them compete. I think this is what we were waiting for. We were waiting for Illini and MBT to finally compete. Like this is going to be that follow from blowout. They both had time to prep, but so how you had Illini? I mean, why do you have Illini over MBT?
I've judged Illini twice last year, and I really liked how they have become, more of a uniform team over the years. I think just leadership change overall there has been great. The choreos, it's refreshing. Like, there are times where when I've judged them, like the drops are very repetitive, right? And it's like very predictable. You can hear it in the mix. You can see it in the moves that lead up to it, right? But still at the same time, man, those drops, like they hit super hard. I remember at blowout with the Kunde, right? They came up super smooth, super slow, and then they just did the flick of the wrist part. I thought that was super original. I don't know if it's been stolen from somewhere else because I've heard a bunch of stuff of them stealing choreo as well. But in comparison to MBT, it's like I feel like MBT sometimes, like their drops, it doesn't have that same level of effect. Like look, I love my alma mater and everything, but like in all honesty, like when those drops come, it's like it's not even a matter of predictability or not. It doesn't hit hard. It just seems like you're just doing a drop to do a drop rather than like really selling the drop. And I think overall Illini's Nukra overall is just a lot better, right? They really, some of those dancers really, sell that stage. Like, we always look at Illini, we look at like Jaskirat, we're like, oh, he kills and everything, but it's just not only him, right? Some of his other guy dancers, remember the red and orange Jody, they be coming to the front and they try to outdo Jaskirat, but not to an extent where it hurts the team, right? But when you look at MBT, it's like, I get it. You want to dance uniform. You want to come together, right, as a wholesome unit.
But then sometimes, like, it comes down to, like, I know, like, Alana is going to be a wholesome unit. Like, we get that. But if you got to come down to, like, all right, what's the next thing you're going to look for, right? How are the dancers really selling that stage? Alana definitely sells it way better.
I mean, one thing I wanted to add here is I think with MBT is they have some. I'm really looking for some of their dancers. They had a Frozy Jordy last year, Sean, and both Howie. We both know him pretty well. It's like they're always kind of restricting themselves. We were looking for. I think that's what you're trying to touch upon. They're like holding themselves back when they really want to rip it. Um, and that whole aspect, yeah, we all love when Jaskirat comes up and his Jadra flares up, and we get the good shot of his knee and his boxers and his shorts. That's always a great picture to see. So Sal, you had MBT. Well, kind of counterpoint to Howie. So Howie's saying all this stuff about how Illini, their uniformity, they're killing it. I mean, what do you think about MBT and all that?
So I watched their Circle City performance earlier today, and like my honest opinion is if they got into blowout, which they should have, they would have smoked the competition because of and Howie like kind of alluded.
I disagree.
I know you do, but you alluded to some of the points, like some of the exact reasons why I don't think Illini is going to place here, and the biggest one in my opinion is the originality, which you mentioned briefly. Like they dance well, but like I don't think there was a single moment in their blowout set where I thought to myself, "Wow, that was an original Illini never before seen idea."
So give me an example where you've seen that with MBT then.
Dude, they at Circle City, their sub drop, like the little kick out thing they did, was like I wasn't expecting it, right? I could guess Illini's drops. I couldn't guess MBT's. And granted, like not every single drop, right? But like when you compare Illini versus MBT, then MBT's originality is far superior, in my opinion. And the second reason I'm gonna say MBT is I know like everyone's views Illini as like the top dancing team because they were at blowout, and like that's kind of what most people know. If you watch Circle City, 1 to 12, MBT had really consistent energy the entire time. And the one, like another knock I have on Illini's blowout performance is when dancers came to the front, they murked it. But if you watch the back corners of stage, that entire performance, like every jaw drop, every like anything that you see, there's just like a clear, like the legs get weaker and weaker as you go to the back of stage. I watched the back corners of MBT's Circle City performance, and the one thing I loved is dancers were dancing the same in the back corner versus the front. So like, yeah, when they were in the front, maybe they weren't going as hard, but that consistent energy is definitely going to play over Illini because again, like what I was saying about first class, like dancing as a unit, dancing consistently together is going to win you Burgh. Like it has in every single year. And
Actually, Sal,
I just think MBT does a better job of that.
It's always about dancing as a unit. With Nutchly, I thought their standout Geordies that they had were a big reason they won. Their red Geordie, I think also the yellow Geordie, they were killing it. And with AEG, I think they had their green Geordie, which was a Howie and Brethwick. They killed it for them. It was their standout Geordies that really helped them out. But it's also, it's always the judge's preference. That's one thing that we always forget, that there's 5 judges and there's 5 different opinions. Scores can be scores, and that's the whole point of scores, to help us put those opinions to numbers. But it's also something that can be lost, that there's 5 different opinions. And I think it's going to come down. One thing you guys didn't mention was the girls on the team. You were talking about the guys, Jesse. We talked about Jesse. We talked about Sean. We talked about Jaskirat coming up. But I think one of the things we forgot is the girls with a collegiate team. That's 50% of your team in most cases. And from what that can make a huge impact on who's going to place. And with Illini, I thought their girls were more balanced out in terms of their girls were all at a similar level versus MBT. They had a little bit disparity with their girl dancers.
I don't know if I agree with that entirely. And I think the reason I don't agree with it is kind of what I was saying earlier. Like I noticed a very consistent energy among the girls for MBT. And granted, like a knock on MBT's Circle City performances, they kind of relied on their, top 3 Jodies, like top 3 guys, top 3 girls. But I think in general, like when you watch all the dancers on Illini, like guys, girls alike, it's just that there's not that consistent energy that's happening the entire performance. And I think that's going to hurt them if they do the same thing at Burgh. Like, yes, when they come to the front, they're better than MBT girls. I think that MBT girls have a very like consistent energy. And if they can get their bottom girls to match that sort of like consistent level, then I think they'll take the cake.
So we talked a lot about Illini and MBT. There's four other teams here that we really haven't talked about. That's Cornell, Capital Bhangra, DRP, and Tag. So what are you guys' thoughts? I mean, Tag in the lineup. Tag's coming back. The last time they performed was MCB, and they went live. So it'll be interesting to see. What are your thoughts on Tag in this year's lineup?
I have seen Tag's video from Motor City this year, and before that they competed at was in 2015 Motor City when they actually went live as well. And I think it's a new set of girls. If you're talking about like old school Tag, like 2010, 2000 through 2012 Tag, that was, in my personal opinion, the best all girls team in the circuit, without a doubt. Right? They dance very powerful. Right? They were able to beat a lot of, doesn't matter, all guys team, all girls team, collegiate team, right? They were able to just keep up, if not be better than them as well. And I think it just comes down to coaching, right? I think the whole SGPD Academy, the House of Bhangra Academy, right? They've always done a very good job at coaching the dancers. And if it's, I think, through generations, I know they're coming back a bit more. I know NGPD can start competing. That's their junior SGPD team. And I think probably have the same level of coaching, right? And that they're going to do real well, especially coming to Burgh. They're coming in, and I think people kind of always forget, right, that any good coach of any academy or team is going to be able to take any dancer and make him or her nasty, right? And especially at Burgh, we always sleep on some of these teams, such as Tag, after they're coming in now. And I think they're going to be the most interesting team. And if anything, they could probably win the whole thing.
I think the one thing to look out for Tag, though, and something that kind of happens a lot with these academy teams, is like the difficulty of the set. It's like if you look last year, like Royal Queens, which is just another Canadian academy, they probably danced on par with like NSG or FCB, like the winning teams. But where they just like really fell was just the simplicity of the set. So I think that's the one thing to look out for Tag. I mean, I don't really know, like, have any like intel in terms of like who Tag is bringing and who's coaching them and what kind of set they'll have, but that's just.
Sahil, you've seen Tag in the past, right? Like
I've
you
seen
danced for a while,
but like, yeah, and I've seen them, but like you can't. I'm not gonna like. I don't know anything about this, like a new Tag, and I'm assuming the same dancers from like when they wrecked the circuit, like 2010, 2012. I'm assuming they're not currently still dancing.
From what I've seen on Instagram and social media, I think Tag and SPD have a good close relationship, which could be really helpful. SPD is obviously SPD, and they're successful. But there's another team here. I mean,
Right, so like just
what's up?
what Howie said was right. These Canadian teams just train like from the ground up phenomenally well. So like you definitely can't rule them out. It's just a matter of, can they bring a set that's like exciting enough to match their training and their fundamentals.
Also, it's so late in the game, right? They coming in, it's like less than 3 weeks out. It's 19 days, right? So it's like, were they prepping this whole time? All of a sudden, boom, you get hit with it. 19 days, get ready. We're coming to Burgh. That's also the disadvantage too.
Yeah, a lot of us have been on our fair share of wait lists before, and it's been you kind of get hit with it, and it can be a good thing. It can push you real hard, or it can be a bad thing where it's just like a warm up performance because you haven't really had enough time to prep. But really, on the opposite end of Tag, you have another team like Capital Bhangra. That's from what my knowledge is their collaboration team out of DC. I'm not sure who's captaining it. I don't know who's dancing versus the other team. It's pretty clear who's dancing on these teams. So I'm not sure much about Capital Bhangra. I don't know, Sal, if you know any information about them or know anything about what they're bringing.
So yeah, like you said, they're a co-ed lab team from like, I don't say DC. I guess they're based in DC, but I think they're like the entire East Coast. They are going to have a really, really, like, I don't know a whole lot about them, but they're going to have a very strong set of dancers. I mean, they're a collab team, so you can expect like the top dancers from a lot of these East Coast teams, and the DMV area is like loaded with dancers. So, and I believe Deepika is captaining the team. Don't quote me on that, but she makes some phenomenal choreo. She danced with us at Blowout 2017, and like immediately as soon as we asked her, like she just started contributing these like amazing ideas for our set. So I think at the very least, they're going to have one of the more exciting sets at Burgh. I think where they could easily fall in this competition is standardizing to one style. With any collab team, you're going to have 12 different dancers with 12 different styles. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure that they're only like whenever they meet up for practice weekends, I'm sure that they're just going to like rail like standardizing, but it'll be interesting to see if that actually works and they can maintain that the entire set, because I have full faith that with like this collab team, you have 12 strong dancers who are all going to contribute solid ideas. So I could really see their set being they're my dark horse team. I think that they could snag any sort of placing at this competition, but it'll come down to their dancer.
But I think the problem is, I mean, Sal, like you make a good point, but I think the problem with collab teams, right? If you experience them in the past, is that you're grabbing 12 people, like, you know, you maybe have 3 dancers in the same area, 3 from the other side of the country, one like that lives like, you know, down the block from you or whatever the hell it may be, right? Is that no matter how good the dancers are, they come together at 4 practices. Like you said, you're standardizing, setting everything together, right? But then somehow, sometimes doesn't work out. And for actually not sometimes, it's majority of the time it doesn't work out, right? Like I'll give you an example. Look at Cobra Punga, right? Cobra Punga, like I think it was like last year, a couple years ago. You're talking like old school BK, Advanced City, you know, Ankile Gobru guys coming together, and they went to that comp and didn't place.
Yeah, same with like Toon Squad, Bruin.
Yeah,
all of these are like extremely exciting performances, and that's what I think Capital's going to be. It's just like whether they can or not. I don't know anything about how much they've been practicing. I don't know, like if they're a collab team, but all their dancers come from like within 4 or 5 hours away, then like they're not really a collab team. Like they could be like extremely standardized by the time Burgh comes around. I really don't know that much about them.
It's always interesting to see with collaboration teams. You know, you got a team like DDR. I mean, they're a collab team and they won Buckeye. They beat out some collegiate teams. I mean, Sal, your own collegiate team that's been dancing together a whole semester, whole year, just because you have a bunch of people coming together with ideas.
I also think they were extremely unstandardized at that competition. Like
completely agree. I agree.
they won. I get that. The set was phenomenal. Props to Angela for that. But and like they were not standardized at all. I remember watching that live, and I didn't think they were even going to place because I saw like it was cluttered with mistakes. But again, I mean, like going back to Capital, like it really just depends how much they can standardize and whether their dancers can push past falling back to their own style, like when they get tired midway through the set.
Yeah, so we're talking about like the collaboration team. Now there's 2 more collegiate teams, Cornell and DRP. DRP actually just came off a pretty impressive Bruin performance. So what do you think? Like, how are they going to translate that? Bruin is such a different comp than Burgh. How are they going to translate that over to this Burgh stage, that style?
So
I think
you got
I think that with I think I saw the Bruin performance. It was dope. I definitely thought it should have placed over FCB. Just like, I mean, I don't know. I didn't look at the rubric, but like just from what Bruin really is, I know that DRP is a team that traditionally goes to Boston a lot, and I don't know what the deal. Look, the biggest, scariest thing every fall that comes around, any collegiate team that goes to a comp is dancer turnover, right? I don't know if people left that team, or if they have the same captains, or who they may be new captains, right? And I guess from traditionally how they ran that team as a whole, like, yeah, you know, they'll come out, they'll dance that DRP style, you know, they'll bring doles on stage, maybe hit smoke rings or whatever it may be, but I don't think that's going to cut it this time around. You know,
they always bring like an unusually good performance to Bruin every year, and I don't know whether that's like I don't know what they take. I think they take like alumni dancers a decent bit. I'm not like again, don't quote me on that. That could be completely wrong, but their Bruin performance year in and year out is always significantly better than what they do the rest of the year. So, especially at Burgh, I'm a little surprised they're coming, but nonetheless, like I don't really think Burgh matches the kind of style that DRP is good for, or like what they're strongest in. But I mean, they do dance well every year at Bruin. They dance really, really well. It's just can they translate that dancing into a set that's appropriate for Bruin?
Howie, I was gonna say you judged them at Nashville last year. So how they translation like that competition Nashville is not a gimmicky comp. It's more of an execution, like simple, like a similar rubric. Is it a similar rubric to Burgh? That's one question. And can DRP really match their style to that rubric? The style rubric.
I wouldn't say it's this similar rubric per se. I mean, I'm comparing last year's Burgh rubric. I haven't seen this year's Burgh rubric. I think Nashville, yeah, you are right. You know, it's a bit of a smaller comp in terms of like the heavy hitter teams that go there, and it's more based on like, you know, not as gimmicky. But I think what I saw from DRP there, where like they won first, is they were the cleanest and they were the most standardized, right, team of the night. And my biggest critique with them over there was I told them straight up, I was like, look, this is a first place set at Nashville. This is probably definitely in the lower half, if not on the lower end, if you went to Bruin, because I know they were going to go to Bruin. And when I told them that, and then I saw them again on the live stream for Bruin, I was like, yeah, this is 2 completely different teams. Maybe same like dancing style and coaching, but the set just got way better, right? And I don't know. Like I said, man, it's just who knows? Like maybe they retain the same amount of dancers. Maybe that's why they're feeling, a little risky and coming to Burgh in the fall. Because last year I don't even think they competed in the fall because they were retraining their dancers. But I think maybe this year they have some dancers. I mean, something we don't know about, and just keep that legacy going.
Yeah, that's gonna be really important. I mean, it's gonna be see if they can keep that legacy going. And then we also have Cornell. We're talking about legacy. Cornell went over like a huge kind of like a transition to their style. They changed the verdium. They they kind of changed from that really modern style. What are you guys' thoughts on Cornell?
So I saw their video from Thushin last year, and then I briefly watched their NK. I think they danced with NKD. By no means are they like a bad team. They have some creative ideas. Their standardizing isn't the best, but again, for the collegiate circuit, like they're a competitive team. I'm not overly confident that they'll be able to snag a placing here. Again, like anything's possible. I don't know what kind of turnover and stuff they've dealt with, but just in terms of their overall execution and the quality of their set, like the flow, the cohesiveness of it, I don't really see them as a competitor or a placing. I don't know if Howie thinks differently.
I agree along those same sentiments, right? I actually had the pleasure of judging Cornell at NKD last year, and I saw them when we competed against them at Thushin. Positives, just like Sahil said, right? Completely revamped their style. They don't dance like robots anymore, for once. And it was really nice to see that, 100%, right? And it was like, they went along the folker route, right? Trying to train their dancers in that aspect. Things that really hurt them, in my personal opinion, especially at NKD, straight jacket ideas from other teams, right? Things that look so similar. I remember I saw them and they had elements from UNC, like from your team, right? That reminded me of them, even though they clarified it later. But it's all about like impression, right? Like if you're gonna steal something, like it can't look that obvious, or change it up, make it something different, right? And also like that, like the whole Ludi thing that they did, like it was just almost the exact same thing as what BDS did, right? I think it was even the same song. And if you're gonna approach set design from that perspective, like anybody who watches Bhangra, right? Anybody who just to see that, it just goes boom. Like, why are you stealing stuff, right? I think they probably learned from last year, like a lesson, right? And I know it's very, like from that team that they're coming with heat. I know they're angry, especially at the fact that last year they tried so hard and it didn't result in a placing. So I think that anger and that like frustration that they experienced, they're going to turn that into something positive. I don't know if it's going to translate into a placing, honestly, per se, right? But honestly, in Bhangra, sometimes there would be teams that no one like expects to come out of the blue. And like, for example, like there was years ago when you would look at a line and you're like, oh, who is a line right? And it's like they're in a lineup. Oh, cool, right? But then look at them now, right? Now they're the best collegiate team, in my opinion, from last year. So that's how like things change over time. You don't know, right? And anytime you go into a competition, you can't really necessarily always sleep on people because, dude, with the change of people that come in with turnover of a new captaincy, you could take a team that traditionally have never placed. I mean, look, I love FCB and all, and I hate to talk smack about them, but if you looked at FCB for literally like the first 20 comps, right, they didn't even place. If you look prior to 2013, FCB did not place at a comp, right? And then after 2013 hit, they've been getting first, second, right? And whenever they didn't place, it was still counted as a second, like Elite Eight WBBC kind of thing, right? Or when they went live. But that's like the kind of thing you got to realize. Sometimes when people like, it takes a lot of trial and error for teams to come out, and then boom, they all of a sudden just kill it. And I really hope to see that from Cornell this year, and they didn't get discouraged from last year. I love doing cocaine everywhere.
Okay. 3, 2. You ready? You guys ready?
Yeah.
I think we're good, guys. So that concludes another episode of the Bhangra podcast. The rubrics for both these competitions are going to be posted below, and we're also going to post tickets to the show. Please go check out their Facebook pages for Boston Bhangra and for both Boston Bhangra and for Bhangra on the Burgh. Follow them on Instagram and Facebook. This is your host, Sahab Grover. Over and out.